Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be going over the full list of offensive coordinators that the Washington Commanders are either interested in or have requested to interview, and we'll go through their backgrounds as well. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content on the road to 11K subscribers. It takes 1 second, it's free. Go ahead and do it. Also hit that like button and that notification bell. So the Washington Commanders are really starting their offensive coordinator search right now. They're interviewing some people and they're requesting to interview some people, and we've heard some more names about, potential candidates that they're interested in. So the thing is it's getting started, and we're going to really get a better sense of things in the next couple weeks of who it will be and who the finalists are. So today the Commanders are interviewing Pat Shurmer for their offensive coordinator job, and also requested to interview Falcons quarterbacks coach Charles London. So Pat Shurmer obviously has a lot of experience in this league, was a offensive coordinator for the Broncos, I believe, obviously the coach for the Giants. That did not turn out that well, but still, I think people really need to realize that an offensive coordinator is very different than a head coach position. Just because a guy did not succeed as a head coach doesn't mean he's a bad coordinator. There's a lot of guys that were good coordinators, like Pat Shurmer at least before, who were good coordinators, then they got the job as a head coach, and then that didn't work out. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the case with Pat Shurmer, like he's going to be a great hire, but there's some other guys that used to be good coordinators and things didn't really work out for them as coaches, but they still wouldn't be bad hires. I'm not in love with the Pat Shurmer hire. Would it be my, best case scenario? No, but it definitely wouldn't be the worst case scenario. Ron has been interested in him in the past in his, interviews for offensive coordinator job in Carolina. Pat Shurmer was interviewed, I believe, and when when Scott Turner got hired, I believe they were at least a little bit interested in Pat Shurmer. So definitely, I think one of the front runners for this job for sure, and we're going to get into him a little bit more later on in the video. Falcons quarterback coach Charles London is another guy trying to find right here. He is obviously quarterback coach for the Falcons. Falcons are a very run-heavy team, and they were the third best rushing team this year. So maybe that's Ron and Martin Mayhew said it's the identity they want. Well, if it is, maybe get a coach from the Falcons who were I think they had the highest percentage of runs in the NFL, or if not the number one, top three for sure, and third best rushing team overall in the NFL. So definitely a guy that could get hired, but I believe he has no offensive coordinator experience, so we'll see if Ron actually ends up hiring him. And then here's kind of a full list of names. So Pat Shurmer, Charles London, we talked about those two. Other guys that we're interested in: Miami associate head coach / running back coach Eric Studsville, Miami pass game quarterback coach Darrell Bevell, and then other guys like Jim Caldwell and Frank Reich. Those guys are interviewing for head coaching jobs, but the Commanders are interested in those guys. We heard about Jim Caldwell, that the Commanders tried to get him, and he declined because he wants a head coaching job. Well, maybe things change later on if he can't get a job. And then Keim also said, not sure yet if Bevell will eventually interview here or not. Another possible wait and see depending on how coaching dominoes fall. Sounds like this will be a patient process, and it definitely won't be the number one landing spot desired spot for offensive coordinator candidates. That's going to be the Chargers with Justin Herbert, but we might be number 2 or 3 depending on how you want to look at it. We have some offensive weapons. You get the chance to work with a young QB, but it'll only be a 1-year thing. But there's other guys. I believe Darrell Bevell, he's been kind of switching around the league for a while now, 1-year spots. So a guy like that, maybe he's fine taking a 1-year spot if it means, okay, I get an offensive coordinator job. Maybe that eventually propels me to a head coaching job. So out of these guys, the ones I like, obviously Frank Reich and Jim Caldwell, those would be amazing hires. And then I think Darrell Bevell would be a decent hire. He's a little bit, other teams I think the Jets are very interested in him as well. And yeah, that's sorry about the background noise, but here the Commanders have requested to interview Miami quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator Darrell Bevell. So they requested him. They requested what's his name, Charles London, the quarterbacks coach for the Falcons, and they are interviewing Pat Shurmer today for the offensive coordinator job. So that's kind of the list. Ken Zampese also is a person of interest, of course. You know, he's probably the only internal candidate that will get, considered, maybe Jim Hosser, but I doubt it. Ken Zampese does have some offensive coordinator experience, but I do believe it's limited. But he's been in the league for a while, got the chance to work with Sam Howell this year, and would probably run the same offense or a similar offense to what they're running now. So that's definitely something that could happen for sure. So let's go in depth a little bit more of some of these guys. So Darrell Bevell, he has a lot of experience as a coordinator and even some stints as an interim head coach. He got to work with 2 of this season and played a role in his progression. I bet he can help Howell develop nicely. And he did help Tua out. Tua had a good year. The second half was a little bit, shaky, but that's kind of because of his concussions and everything. Also believe he was a offensive coordinator with the Seahawks, and they had a lot of success there with his offenses. They rank pretty highly. So he's a candidate I definitely would not mind for sure. So he's a guy I wouldn't mind. Obviously, Frank Reich and Jim Caldwell wouldn't be bad options as well. And if you look at like Mike Shula's resume, I don't mind it, but when you add just like he's worked with Ron, and it would be Ron kind of falling into his old ways a lot, I don't really like that. We don't, it's just too much familiarity with Ron, and it really hasn't worked in the past. But I do like that a lot of these guys, they don't have too many ties with Ron Rivera. I'm trying to see right here any other tweets I have. So Jordan says, and I'm not necessarily agreeing with this, but he said, a proven offensive coordinator is what I want 100%. Pat Shurmer was able to become a head coach in the past because of his success at offensive coordinator. Former head coaches tend to have success when going back to coordinator. So that is something to consider for sure. But, I believe he was offensive coordinator for the Broncos and didn't have a ton of success with that. So who knows? But there's a lot of different coordinators, and I'm sorry to do this on the fly right here, but there was a post right here that I was interested in. So shout out Strictly Speaking. He has a lot of good insight on some of these coordinators. He says, Ken Zampese is the son of the man who taught Norv the system Scott uses. Pat Shurmer's more of a West Coast offensive guy. Worked under Andy Reid with Ron, but has also worked with Norv and Scott. London and Studsfield are running back coaches who've worked in several systems, and Bevell has always been more of a West Coast offensive guy. So yeah, I forgot to mention it earlier, but London has a lot of experience as a running backs coach, and that's what Studsfield does as well. And then you guys can see some of the connections that Ron has with these guys. The offensive scheme that they're using now. Ken Zampese is the son of the man who did that, who taught Norv Turner that system. And then Shermer worked under Andy Reid with Ron Rivera, and has also worked with Norv and Scott Turner. So you can see these connections, but at least it's not as strong as like Scott Turner's connection with Ron Rivera, where he was offensive coordinator for Ron in Carolina, and obviously son of Norv Turner, who was the offensive coordinator for Carolina as well. So, those are the candidates. Those are the main candidates, and I'm 100%. We're going to hear some more names and also hear about, if these guys are actually interviewing, because, we're requesting to interview. So not only does the team have to accept it, but the person who we're interviewing or requesting an interview have to accept it as well. So those are things to consider. And of course, if later down the line, if Jim Caldwell and Frank Reich don't get jobs, well, maybe they end up getting maybe they end up being interested in offensive coordinator job, and maybe it's here. There's 6 offensive coordinator jobs, so not a ton of spots. And, we're probably the second or third most attractive option. You could say the Chargers, of course, no doubt are more attractive than us. After that, the Rams, I don't know, are they that attractive? I mean, who knows if Matt Stafford's going to be back, and then you have, Sean McVay will be calling the plays and will have a lot of influence on that offense, and a coordinator might not get that much to do there and much freedom. But you can also point to the fact like Kevin O'Connell's offensive coordinator there for what, a year, maybe 2 years, and he got a job as a head coach after that. So he's all fine. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Let me know what offensive coordinator candidates you guys want the Commanders to interview and which ones you want them to hire. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.